And welcome back in, everyone, to a new episode of the Cherry Heat Check. This is a New Mexico Lobos basketball podcast. I am Ricky Thompson, a two-time graduate of the University of New Mexico. Today is January 5th. Lobos are sitting at 2-1 in conference play after a 1-1 week last week, going down to Boise State in Boise, bouncing back against Wyoming this past weekend with a 20-point victory. And then the Lobos will be off to Moby Arena in Fort Collins tomorrow night, January 6th, to take on the Colorado State Rams. Thank everyone for being here. I hope your new year has started off well. Mine started off with some bugs crawling on our Christmas tree, which we quickly discovered and removed from our home here, but that led to me having to use a handsaw and multiple trips up and down the stairs of our third level condo here. So doing the ultimate dad work. Glad to be back here talking basketball. But the leading news over the last week, obviously, athletic director Fernando Lobo moving on to Colorado, and Ryan Berryman announced interim athletic director now at the university after holding the associate AD position. He coming over, as I mentioned in the last episode, with a great amount of experience, and it sounds like he and other internal associate AD Jalen Dominguez will both be gunning for the long-term athletic director spot at the University of New Mexico. To me, it feels like we will have to wait until summer or late into 2026 for the hiring of a permanent athletic director. And I think that is because the president of New Mexico, Garnett Stokes, will be leaving in the summer of 2026. And the new president will probably want to have their fingerprints on the hiring of that new athletic director. But congrats to Ryan Berryman. He will get a shot here to bump up his resume and show what he can do on the big stage here as the Lobos move into a new look Mountain West Conference, also a new era of revenue sharing that New Mexico is part of, and the NIL distribution world maybe kind of changes into this revenue share world. Ryan Berryman and Jalen Dominguez seem like gentlemen that are more than ready to lead the university during this time as Lobo has exited. But biggest news right now is Mountain West basketball, and there was some thrillers over the weekend. On top of the New Mexico game, Boise State and San Diego State really with the game of the Mountain West weekend on Saturday night going into double overtime, where San Diego State was up double digits, 24 points early in this game. Boise State battled all the way back to tie it at the end of regulation. Boise then went on into the first overtime, had control of the game in that first overtime, ended up turning the ball over with about 10 seconds to let go left on a deep pass from RJ Keene that went the length of the court, was intercepted by the Aztecs, and BJ Davis for San Diego State was named player of the week. Also made a game-tying shot in this game to tie it at the end of the first overtime, send it into the second one. And this game was really marred by curious referee calls where players were getting thrown out of bounds. For Boise, flagrants were not called. Other fouls were not being called in both directions. And Boise State ultimately suffering a loss after coming all the way back. Big games by Javen Buchanan and Andrew Meadow for the Aztecs in this one, or for Boise in this one. And then for the Aztecs, freshman Elsie Harrington stepping up with a lot of key plays, and BJ Davis, of course, knocking down that big-time three. Kind of interesting note about San Diego State, while they are 3-0 in conference, Magoon Gwath, while he did play in this game, he did not start and did not play any of the minutes down the stretch that I saw. So Aztecs still kind of sorting out their rotations, but undefeated in conference so far. Lobos' next opponent, Colorado State, got their first conference win, and Coach Ali Farouk-Manesh's first win of his career in the Mountain West, as Colorado State holds off Grand Canyon 70-60, and Colorado State was up double digits, over 20 even, for most of the second half. Grand Canyon scored a bunch in garbage time to really make it respectable, but Colorado State bouncing back after dropping their first two in conference play, getting ready to host the Lobos tomorrow. And then biggest surprise in the conference so far, Nevada Wolfpack improving to 3-0, holding off Fresno State Bulldogs 66-65 as Steve Alford in the pack, using a variety of ways and players. In this one, Mr. Rollison off the bench had a big game to lead the Wolfpack, and Nevada and San Diego State will square off this week in a battle of unbeaten Mountain West teams. UNLV improved to 2-0 in conference, defeating Air Force easily 67-39. And then San Jose State traveled to Logan and fell to Utah State 96-78, where the score of that one, an 18-point win, doesn't really tell the whole story of the game, as San Jose State battled for a lot of this high-scoring affair and just ran out of gas in the last 5 to 10 minutes there. So I think it's just a matter of time before San Jose State and Tim Miles upset one of these top teams here. And as we look at the overall standings in the Mountain West now, after a couple of weeks, Utah State, Nevada, and San Diego State sit at the top at 3-0, followed by UNLV at 2-0, New Mexico sitting at 2-1 below them there, and Grand Canyon at 1-1, and Colorado State, Wyoming, and Boise State all sitting at 1-2 now in conference play. And an interesting statistic, since 2013, when the Mountain West kind of reformed, there have only been 3 teams that have won the conference that have 3 losses. So a lot of teams already looking at some pretty high probabilities as they have 3 losses. Fresno State, San Jose State, and Air Force getting off to slow starts here in conference play at 0-3. Now focusing on the Lobos' latest win over Wyoming and Sundance Wicks, a 20-point victory, 78-58, that took place on Saturday. Lobos really using a second half onslaught of points. Jake Hall finally coming alive in the second half of that game, knocking down 3 3-pointers early on in the second half. Lobos able to hold the Cowboys off, shooting very well, 9 of 22 from deep for 41%, 47% from the field overall. Tomislav Bojan leading the way on the boards. Lobos with 37 rebounds to outduel the Cowboys on the glass, who only had 30 on the glass. And freshman of the week, again, Tomislav Bojan, 25 points, 12 rebounds, 11 of 13 from the field. His father was in attendance, as reported by Jeff Grammer. So pretty cool for Mr. Bojan to see his son in action for the first time in Tomislav's best game as a college player. Almost could not miss out there. And when I look at this game for Tomislav against Wyoming and the stark difference in the way he played against Boise and why this game he was so much more successful, it's just the positions he was receiving the ball, whether it be collecting a rebound himself for a putback, which he was also able to do against Boise. But in the offense, he was able to get the ball out of pick and rolls, give and goes, or drives by other players where he doesn't have to think much with the ball, only having to take one dribble or no dribbles at all in order to finish. And that's really where he's at his best, where he doesn't have to take multiple dribbles in order to score, and everything really comes off of other players' action. And in this one, it really became a layup line for him, as Dayton Albury led the way in the assist category with 7 assists for the Lobos and only 4 points for him, but really great defense from Albury as well. in this one. Antonio Chol, kind of disappointing, 5 points, only shot the ball 4 times, 1 rebound for him. And I'm gonna keep complaining about Chol because I think he has more ability to score, and I would like him to shoot upwards of 10 to 12 shots a game. He has not really even been looking for his shot the past couple of games for some reason, and he really should be more aggressive in my eyes for the Lobos to hit their peak. But Jake Hall, as I mentioned, finally the freshman coming to life in the second half after against Boise in the first half of this game, going a combined 1 for 15 from the field, bouncing back in the second half, knocking down 3 3-pointers, adding 6 rebounds and 2 assists. Jake has to feel a lot better after that second half going in to Moby Arena here in Colorado State, where I would be expecting him to have a much better game in his second road game here versus Colorado State. Luke Hop really filling the void of Chris Howell, Howell missing another game due to illness. And I believe Jeff Grammer reported that Chris Howell also got engaged over the holiday break. So congrats to Chris Howell. Now we want to see you back on the court, but Luke Hop in his absence, adding 10 points, 5 rebounds, scoring in a variety of ways, whether it be knocking down a three, finishes at the rim, or a series of head fakes. Really impressed with the way that Luke Hop has been impacting these past few games. And the bench bouncing back in a big way in this game, led by Uriah Tenet with 14 points. Overall, the bench had 25 points in this game after a poor showing in Boise. Tenet also adding 2 rebounds, 3 assists, and JT Rock, big man, bouncing back after really getting pushed around by the Broncos in Boise against the Cowboys here over the weekend. 7 points, 3 of 3 from the field for 2 rebounds. And JT really looking much more comfortable at home. Hopefully, this will give him some confidence against the Rams. The Rams are missing one of their key big men in Kyle Jorgensen, so look for New Mexico hopefully to have the advantage down low, and a big part of that is JT. So not sure why, or I do know why he wasn't as effective against Boise, but it was due to their length and physical style. Hopefully he bounces back against Colorado State. But overall, impressive win by New Mexico. Ball movement was much better in this game, as in the game against the Broncos in Boise, Lobos only had 4 assists. So the Lobo ball movement in this game was much more fluid. Obviously, the defense of Wyoming is not what Boise State's defense is, but promising stuff here for New Mexico as they're still a little undermanned, and they found a way to blow out a very good Wyoming team. Now we will look forward to the Lobos matchup tomorrow, Tuesday the 6th, versus the Colorado State Rams. First-year coach Ali Farouk-Manesh taking the job after Nico Medved moved on to Minnesota, his alma mater, in the offseason. Colorado Rams with a great season last year, led by the likes of Neat Clifford, who's now playing for the Sacramento Kings, Kyan Evans, who has moved on to North Carolina, and Jalen Crocker Johnson, who followed Coach Medved to Minnesota. Filling the void here for the Rams has been a returning big man, Kyle Jorgensen, 6'10" forward, who is currently injured. Don't think he will be able to play against the Lobos, but he has been a big-time player for the Rams so far this year. Transfer Josh Pasquarelli, who came over from Marist, has been one of the leading scorers for the Rams so far this year, coming in at over 13 points a game. Kerry Booth playing the forward position. He coming in scoring almost 12 points a game, 7 rebounds a game as well. And transfer Brandon Recksteiner also scoring 12 points a game, shooting an unbelievable 43% from downtown. Pasquarelli also shooting over 47% downtown. And this is a Colorado State team that is top 3 in three-point shooting in the entire country. They get over 40% of their point total from three-point range. They're not afraid to let it go in transition. They have the weapons with a Pasquarelli, a Rex Steiner, Jevin Muniz, another transfer from Florida Gulf Coast, who has also spurred the Rams to many of their victories. So look for the Lobos to put pressure on the Rams, not allow them to get the looks that they want, even though the Lobos do allow one of the highest three-point attempt rates in the country. They don't allow teams to shoot it at a high percentage. And against a team in Colorado State that does shoot it high, Lobos will have to find ways to force turnovers, create long possessions so that Colorado State does not have as many shot attempts as they usually get, because when they go up for Colorado State, they go in, whether it be from three-point range, 2-point field goal range, or free throw range, where they're the tops, some of the top shooters there in all categories in the entire country. So look for the Lobos to attack the paint, as Colorado State does not really have a physical presence down low at the moment. Also, Colorado State does not force a lot of turnovers on defense themselves. So if New Mexico is able to take care of the basketball, get good looks, and not going onto these long scoring droughts like they had against a Boise, hopefully New Mexico can be in this game. Expecting Colorado State to be a 4 point favorite based on what KenPom is showing. So far, Colorado State, as I mentioned, came into non-conference with a fairly strong resume, but lost those first 2 conference games, getting destroyed by Utah State in Logan 100-58, and then losing to Nevada at home 75-62 before they bounced back and beat GCU a couple of days ago. But in the non-conference slate, did not have that many big name programs they were playing against. Did hang in there with Virginia Tech, only losing by 2 there. Defeated Wichita State and South Florida, as well as Colorado, with those 3 really being their biggest non-conference wins. So Colorado State looking not to have another home conference loss. New Mexico thinking they'll probably have Chris Howell back in the mix, who's been a starter for them whenever he has played. Look for the Lobos to be more at full strength here going into Moby. I'm going to pick the Lobos to get their first conference win on the road, as the Rams, I don't think, have looked too strong here over their first 3 conference goes at it. Looking at the overall net rankings as of Sunday, when I screenshotted this, Utah was 19th nationally in the net ranking, followed by Boise at 45, and New Mexico has moved all the way up to 54 in the net ranking, really building a nice resume here in that win against Wyoming, boosting them into the top 60 in the net ranking here. So Lobos continue to build a very decent tournament resume here. They really have to win games on the road, including this one at Colorado State. But then they have to be able to steal one against one of the top teams, whether it be Utah State, San Diego State, or Nevada looks like to be a top team as well. I think if any of those conference teams can win at those top team places, that's where you'll really be able to pick up separation versus the other teams in the conference. But Lobos with really no bad losses on their resume, other than the loss against New Mexico State early in the year, as New Mexico State continues to slide at the moment. But looking at the other games around the Mountain West, for Tuesday the 6th, Utah State will go to Air Force, and that will be at 6 p.m. Pacific, as well as the New Mexico game. Fresno State will come out here to the Bay Area where I reside to play San Jose State. UNLV will go to Wyoming, and that should be a good matchup. And then probably the conference game of the evening, San Diego State will go to Nevada and Lawler Arena to visit Coach Alford and the Wolfpack, that being the late game at 8 p.m. Pacific. Hopefully, that will be a good one as well. Just want to wrap up here by thanking everyone that subscribed on YouTube, viewed my stuff, reposted, have been growing here slowly but surely. And thank you to everyone for the support. We'll work on getting some more guests back on the show and not recording in the dark at 11 p.m. at night. But sometimes that is just when my time allows to do this here. But really appreciate it. I will be back after the Colorado State game, hopefully after a Lobo victory, to break it down for you. Thanks, everyone. This has been another Cherry Heat Check.